Hi, everybody. My name is Angie, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you so much for having me here. And Patrick, thank you for everything. And Jen, thank you so much. I am originally from Greenville, South Carolina, and back home, we lived in a little white house on a red dirt road. We got our water out of wells. We ate buttermilk. No, drank buttermilk and ate cornbread on a regular basis. I do none of those things today. I'm from a family of Baptist ministers. And so, they all had my life planned out for me. I had flaming red hair and freckles growing up. Nobody in my family did. And my brother had me he had me locked in the outhouse, and he said, "I know who your daddy is." He goes, "And I know why you look the way you do, because the mailman is your daddy." And I was like, what? So whenever I saw him coming, I saw him every day too, and at 3:30. And so whenever I saw the mailman, I was like, "Daddy!" And I run up to him, and he put his arms around me and tell me how cute I was and pat me on my head. And I found out later on through inventory that it turned out to be a little pattern for me, actually, that if you just pat me on the head and told me how cute I was, we were basically married at that point. So my dad got a preaching job in Cincinnati, so he was traveling back and forth trying to find us a place to live. And in the process, he found him a girlfriend, and he moved us to Cincinnati, and then he went up to live with his girlfriend and her ready-made family and left my mother to raise my brother and sister and myself. Now, my brother and sister are cool. It's me they had to deal with. Flaming red hair and freckles? Come on. I didn't even see a black person with red hair and freckles until I got sober at a meeting. And I ran up to him. I was like, "Where you been?" You know what I mean? Give me a hug. Well, where it's just us two. And so my mom decides that because my mother cleaned bathrooms for a living, she said her kids would never do that. And so education was very important. We weren't allowed to use any slang. We couldn't even say fart. We had to say flagellate. And that'll get you beat up in school, trust me. So my mom decides to send us to a Catholic school. And so now I got a flaming red afro, a white blouse, a plaid skirt, bobby socks, and black and white Spaldings, if you remember those. So I knew I was going to get beat up one day. I just didn't know when it was going to happen. But one day I was walking home from school. There was this girl named Squeaky. She was like 6'10" in the 5th grade. And she used to beat up everybody that was different. So I knew my day was coming. And one day I was walking home, and here they came. I heard the footsteps, and I took off running. That's why I like that movie Forrest Gump. I didn't have braces, but if I did, I would have ran out of them. And they chased me. And I ran in the house, and I told my mother, I said, "I almost got beat up on the way home from school." And she goes, "Really? What happened?" I said, "I ran." And she goes, "Angela," and whenever she sounded like that, I knew it was a problem. She goes, "Angela, you're going to have to learn how to stand up for yourself, honey. So I'm going to need you to go back out there. And if she wants to fight, you fight her." I said, "What? Me?" And so she stood in the screen door while I walked up to this big Amazon. And a long time ago, my brother and them used to box, right? One pinky up. And they used to. And so I'm standing in front of this big Amazon. And I used to think that the committee was just there as an adult. It's always been there. Because I could clearly hear somebody say, "Don't forget to reach up." Okay, yeah, reach up, reach up, reach up. I got her right here. It was the happiest day of my damn life, man. I had hit the giant. I had went where no man had ever been. And she like to kill me. She gave me the beat down of a lifetime. It was so embarrassing. My mother came out of the screen door and pulled this big Amazon off of me. And as soon as I saw my mom, I went, "We did it." We did it, and she's walking me back to our apartment like this. Girl, you are all kinds of special. I was like, thanks, Mom. And so we went to the Catholic school, and my mom got a job, a good job, and she moved us to an all-white community. So from the age of 13 to 20, I wasn't even black anymore. I listened to Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band. My favorite girl group is Heart. And the first concert I ever went to, baby, was Led Zeppelin, 1975. I know. I went to Ted Nugent Foreigner concert, and Foreigner was singing Feels Like the First Time. And I looked around that Coliseum, and it was 20,000 white people and me. And that night, I became a legend in my own mind. I really, truly did. And so I hung out with these girls, these 5 white girls, and they could do whatever they wanted to do. I don't know how, The brothers drank beer in the basement, and that's all I was around, was alcohol. But my friend Rebecca came over. She gave me my first drink. It was Annie Greenspring's Boone's Farm apple wine. I know, right? I know. And whenever I mention that at my church, they often feel sorry for me that I called it wine, first of all. And that Annie Greensprings and them made it. But, so she brought me my drink. It was a pint, and she had 2 of them. And she said, we have to hit the bottom, twist the cap off, drink it as long, as hard as we could. And that's what I did. And I can tell you what happened to me did not happen to my friend Rebecca. Because as I began to drink this, there was a feeling that was starting at the bottom of my feet, moving slowly up my body. And by the time it got to my head, I had made a conscious decision that I would be drunk every opportunity I got, and I meant that. And that's what we did. We were young girls hanging out in bars, and they were letting us in, serving us drinks, and that's what I did. And now I got a mom who is strict, and she didn't play that. And once I started drinking, I quit coming home. And I quit going to school. And I smoked a little pot. I'm sorry. Shh. Smoked a little marijuana. I didn't really like it, though, because it just made me say whoa to everything. You know what I mean? I was walking down the school corridor, and somebody threw a match in my afro. I know it's horrifying, but by the time I walked through that hallway, by the time I got to the bathroom, because the principal saw me, he goes, Pepper, go look at yourself in the bathroom. No problem. And I went in, and my hair had literally burnt into 2 cones. Oh, my God. And I went, whoa. What other response you're going to have to that? And that's the way it went. So we're up here in this neighborhood, and I'm listening to rock and roll, and my family's listening to the Temptations and the Four Tops, and I'm listening to dun 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 dun. My mom used to just look in my room and go, what's wrong with her? They didn't know what was wrong with me. They sent me to a psychiatrist. I never told him the truth. Like, the last time that I actually went to the psychiatrist, I was tripping on acid. And the only reason why they made me go, because I used to have this pink foot on my wall, and it fell on me, and I felt like it had me. had its grip on me. So I'm screaming, Mama, it's got me. Come and get it off of me. And she opens up my room, and she goes, oh, God. Calls the ambulance. We go to the mental hospital. And I loved it there. I loved it. I really did. This is how you know I'm alcoholic. I loved it at the mental hospital. I mean, I married a guy. He had cerebral palsy, but he was, fine. And Oh, but I have to tell you this. So 5 years sober, I'm in the grocery store, right? Now, I've given this guy in this mental hospital a silver ring made out of aluminum foil. We are married as far as I'm concerned. I'm in the grocery store, and I hear all of this commotion, and I look over, and it's him. And he's going, "My wife." And he still had that aluminum ring. You guys, I swear, we get sober and just get so nice. Oh. So I ran out of the store real quick and went on about my merry way. And, I started drinking at 13. And I quit when I was 32. And I'm going to tell you that from 13 to 32, I had 2 heart attacks from drinking. Shot once for running my mouth. I didn't know people shot you for that stuff, but they'll shoot you for running your mouth. And I'm running my mouth to somebody that has a gun. Well, I got one too. I mean, ain't no bullets in it, but I'm doing a little Barney Fife. I got it. But you don't ever pull it on somebody. And I'm sitting at this bar. I always wanted to crack a bottle on the bar and threaten somebody with, you know what I mean? And this particular night, I really wanted to break this and hurt this girl. But it was about 4 of them sitting at the end of the bar. I found out later it was just one. And it was just one person. And I had literally threatened her all night long. That bottle would not break to save my life, you guys. Every time she looked at me, I would just hit the bottle on the bar and nothing happened. And she was laughing. And I was like, you tell all your buddies to leave me alone. This is why I don't drink. This is one of the reasons why I don't drink. Because I don't have any common sense. When I drink, I married a guy that was 92 years old. You know why I married him? Because I thought everybody wanted him. And I would be carrying he was so old, I would be literally carrying him to the bar, like. And then if somebody looked at him, I'm like, I know you ain't looking at my man. And literally what they're doing is just looking at me like I'm crazy. Because I'm a young woman with a 92-year-old man, and I'm ready to fight. Let's sit him up against the wall, and I will fight you about him. So I'm a singer, so I knew somebody was just going to discover me one day. You know, I'd just be eating at a restaurant, and somebody would come up to me and go, do you sing? My name's Bob from Epic Records. Here's a contract. That's how I thought it was going to happen. Here's what actually happened. So my dad got me a part-time job at a recording studio. So I'm in this bathroom where the acoustics are good, and I hit up my best Whitney Houston note, and when I stepped out, there was a tall brother standing there. And he said, was that you singing? I said, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it was. He goes, I can make you famous. Really? He said, all you got to do is come to Vegas with me. No problem. Let me go discuss this with my family. So I go back home and gathered all my family together and told them, I'll be back for you. No longer will we have to live in poverty. My mom goes, we don't live in poverty. We really didn't. And I'm going to Vegas, and as soon as I get my first Grammy, I'm going to bring all you guys out there. And my mom's like, my brother was like, Angie, come on, don't go. My little sister was like, Angie, don't go. My mom was like, see you later. And so I left with this gentleman, And we headed on our excursion to Vegas. And I'm going to tell you, I had me a ball in Vegas until I didn't. But I had a good time for the most part. But I'm a blackout drinker. So, yeah, it was bad. I mean, I know it doesn't happen here, but, you know, I woke up next to some guy named Zeb. He's a cowboy from Houston. And he goes, "You told me you loved me last night." I was like, "Did I?" "I'm sorry, it was the alcohol." And he had one tooth and it was gold. That's the only reason why I was going to keep him, because I felt like if he died, I'd just snatch his tooth out. You know what I mean? And go get a drink. And so I'm out in Vegas, and now appearing on the sign. 3 weeks later, slammed down to the ground. I'm a drunk. Nobody ever told me to stop drinking. They said things like this: maybe you should just drink beer. Whiskey makes you mean. You ever had a slow gin fizz? Who drinks those? You know what I mean? No, I don't, no, nothing. Nobody ever told me, just put it down. You know, you're up on stage singing feelings, and that's not what they're singing. They're singing a totally different song, but I'm drunk. I'm like, feelings, nothing more than feel. And they were like, give her a break. And finally, no more. And so I went from having everything to having nothing. This gentleman that I went with had his own little problem. So we went from staying at nice hotels to a hole in the wall. And he had been gone for 2 days. I hadn't seen him. He came back. He said, "I need you to drive me to the store." And I drove him to the store. And when we got to the store, he went in and he robbed the place and he shot and killed the owner. And when he came out of that store with blood all over him, he told me to go, and that's what I did. And a few short blocks later, we were surrounded by police. I had a fifth of Thunderbird Classic between my legs while I was driving. And they had their guns pulled on me, and they pulled me out of the front seat of that car, out of the driver's seat. And I'll tell you what, all I could think about was that alcohol. And I even asked the cop, "Can I please drink that?" And he goes, "Are you insane? Do you know how much trouble you're in?" And I said, "I know, but I need to drink that before we go." And he took it and he threw it on the ground. And I want to tell you that this gentleman just died in that Nevada prison. And here I am in Colorado, speaking at an AA meeting. I made it out of there. I got a floater out of the state of Nevada from the governor who said, "You cannot return here for any reason." And I left there. And I made a solemn vow, you guys, when I left, no more alcohol for me. I got home. I told my family, I'm not going to drink. I'm not doing anything. And it was all of 2 weeks. And I was drunk again. In Cincinnati on Sundays, you used to be able to get on the city bus and ride all over the city. It was called Sunday Pass riding. And my brother and sister and myself went all over Cincinnati. And we got downtown to the corner of Liberty and Vine. And there was a restaurant there. And when I looked over there, there was light colors and suits and hats and pimps and prostitutes. And my brother goes, "You couldn't pay me to go over there." And my sister was like, "Me either." And I was thinking, I'm going over there tomorrow. And I started hanging out down there with the gangsters and the OGs, and they drank like I did. And so they became my family. And I went downtown one time and did not come back. I stayed down there with them. I had 3 friends. Their name was No Neck, Greasy Feet, and Tie Dye. They looked out for me while I was downtown Cincinnati because I knew I didn't have any business being down there. And we were sitting at the bar one day, and they said, "Hey, you want to make some money?" I said, I'm always game for that. And they said, well, here's a girdle. And what we're going to do is we're going to take you into an department store, and you're going to take the outfits, and you stick them in the girdle, and you close your jacket, and you walk out. No problem. Piece of cake. Then one day I was sitting at the bar, and I was like, I don't need them to go with me. I can go by myself, and I don't have to share the money with anybody, but I'm going to need some courage. So I sat in that bar, and I drank as long as I could, and I was inebriated, you guys, when I walked into those people's department store to steal. And I go in. Before it was all over, I had a rack of Monet jewelry around my neck, brassieres hanging out of my pants pocket. I'd stuffed so much stuff down into my sweatpants that I couldn't even hardly walk. So when I got to the door to run, the police officer was like, seriously? He said, seriously. And I tried to run, and I fell because I had all that heavy stuff, right? That's what made it aggravated. The moment I tried to run, it became aggravated. And so I go to jail and take a physical and find out I'm pregnant. And because of the amount of merchandise I had, when I went to court, my mom testified against me, and they sentenced me that day to no less than 7 years, no more than 25 years in the Ohio Reformatory for Women, and I was pregnant. And I'm going to tell you something. That's the only reason why I didn't lose my mind when I was in prison, because I was rubbing my stomach and I was telling my child all the things that we're going to do, all the things that we're going to do when I get out. The warden came to me right before my son was born and said, you're going to have to find some place for him to go or he'll become a ward of the state. Well, none of my family was speaking to me by this time, and I had to call home and see if they would come and get my baby. And I called my mom, and I said, Mom, I need you to come up here. And she goes, Angela, we don't visit prisons. And I said, I'll need you to pick up my child. And you could hear a pin drop. And she goes, Angela, you're getting ready to have a baby. I said, yes, ma'am, and I need you to come and get him. And here's the one thing about my parents. They showed up. I watched my son leave that prison through a slit this big. And I made promises. When I get home, I'm going to do everything I can to be the best possible mother I could be. And I meant that from the bottom of my heart, you guys. But when I take a drink of alcohol, all bets are off. By the time I got out of prison, my son was 4 years old. All the way down 71 South, all I could think about was him, you guys. Holding his hand, walking with him, just hanging out with my kid. I got to the Greyhound bus station, and if you're new, it's more about alcoholism. It says, suddenly the thought crossed his mind that he could put a little whiskey in his milk. He sensed he wasn't being a bit too smart. And I walked right into that bar, claiming to go see my friends, never went to see my kid. The next time I saw my child, I had called my mom to see how he was doing, and she said, can you be here on such and such a day? And when I got there, there was papers, envelope, and $150 in $50 bills. And I was focused on that because I needed a drink. And I signed those papers without even looking at them, because all I could focus on was that $150 because I needed a drink. And I signed away my parental rights to my son. And but I left with that $150 and I got drunk, because that's what we do. Because we think it's going to last us a while. You know what I mean? And I went downtown Cincinnati, and that money was gone, and so was my kid. And started hanging back downtown Cincinnati, and got pregnant again. But this time, I was working at a restaurant, and the general manager said, Angie, look, we're going to open up a restaurant over in Bloomington, Indiana. Why don't you come with us? And you seem to be struggling. And I said, I'll go. And I'm going to give my baby up for adoption. And so I drank my entire pregnancy. I didn't go and see the doctor one time. This is what alcoholism does to me. I didn't go to the doctor. And I think I really felt like if I didn't acknowledge it, it didn't happen. You know what I mean? So I just keep drinking. And I had my daughter, and we had planned for her to be given up for adoption. And my mother called the University of Indiana Hospital and said she has next of kin who will take the kid. And so I had to wait for my baby to detox. She shook, and it was the worst thing ever. So when my mom decided that next of kin will take her, then as soon as she was able to be released, we got on a Greyhound bus. Did you know that there's always a liquor store near a Greyhound bus station? And I went in there and I bought a fifth of Jack. And I get on the bus with this newborn baby, and I just kept praying, God, please don't let her cry. I don't know what to do. And she was quiet the whole time. I had to literally lift her body up to see if she was breathing. And I got to the Greyhound bus station, and my dad was there, and I was so drunk on the bus that the bus driver went out to the terminal and said, whoever's here with this woman with this newborn, you need to come and get this baby before she hurts it. And it made me really mad. And so I grabbed the diaper bag. I had my baby here. I had a fifth of Jack in my hand. And as I'm going down the aisle, her head is just hitting the seats. See, I'm alcoholic. Bumping her head the whole way. Got to the top of the step to go down, and I slipped. I'm going to tell you something. Had I fell, I'd have dropped her before I dropped that Jack. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm not twisted. I'm an alcoholic. And so my dad was there. He came and took the baby out of my arms and walked to his truck. And I said, Daddy, what am I supposed to do? And he said, baby, I don't know what you're supposed to do, but she didn't ask for this. And he took my kid. And I went to the bar, and I was in tears. And when I walked in, they said, what's going on, Pep? And I was like, I don't have my kids anymore. Give her a drink, of course. I quit drinking June the 19th, 1991. But I got sober June the 20th. And I'm going to tell you something. When I walked back in to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, after being there for a minute, after really feeling like I was not like you, kind of. I mean, we had some similarities, but I wasn't like you. I wasn't alcoholic. And it was all white people. Well, kind of like tonight. Where you at? I know you. I see you, baby. I see you. I see you. I see you. Somebody else here, too, I think I see. I see you. Hey, power to the people. Stay. Stay here. Stay in this fellowship. I'm telling you. You just feel like a chocolate chip in a big old glass of milk. You know what I mean? It's just something special. Something special. And so I got sober. I came into AA, and it was a mess. And I don't mean it, I know singleness is a purpose, but I have to tell this in order to tell the story. They started coming in with this little crack problem. I know you didn't have it out here. But in Cincinnati, we had a huge one, and they were coming in by the droves. And they would sit at the back relapse table and talk about, and none of them blinked. Nobody blinked. I didn't understand why they could not blink. And I remember telling them, if somebody don't blink back here, I'm going to turn this table over. I really, truly am. And I said, and as a matter of fact, I'm a sponsor all y'all. And I said, but don't talk, because this is AA. Maybe they'll come up with a Crackaholics Anonymous. They don't have one right now. But you can stay here, just don't talk. And I'm telling you that to tell you this. I went to the Wednesday night meeting. Wasn't a cloud on the horizon. And you guys were talking about how God was using you as an instrument. I said, you know what? I think God using me as an instrument too. And he want me to bring some black people into AA. So I wasn't mad or anything when I left. I just knew that I had some recruiting to do. And so, old timers. So I was giving my departure speech, and this old timer was like, get out of here then. There's people who want to stay sober. We'll see you if you make it. I was like, Mr. Old Timer, I don't need to come back. I'm good. So I left, took my big industrial-sized big book, and I said, the first black person I see, I'm going to carry the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I got on the bus. Number 43 bus going downtown. One stop. Drunk man gets on. I said, bingo. Took my big industrial-sized big book, and I said, hey, brother, you been drinking? He said, yeah, I had a little something, something. I said, you know, you might be alcoholic. And so he started cussing me out and everything. and I told him, I said, you know, the people from the AA Club told me, you know, that you would probably react like this to my information. So I'm going to give it to you the only way you know how. And the only way I feel like you'll be able to receive it. So I opened up that book to chapter 5. I told you I'm from a family of Baptist ministers. And I opened up that book to chapter 5, and I said, rarely. Did you hear what I said? I said, rarely have we seen a person fail who is thoroughly followed our path. I said, those who do not recover are those who are constitutionally incapable. And the bus driver goes, oh, hell no. So he puts me off the bus, man, puts me off the bus. And I told him right before I got off, I said, and you, Mr. Bus Driver, are an alcoholic too. And so I went down to the bar, you know, because, you know, you guys taught me about the masks we wear, and, you know, really when we're happy, we're not. We just look like it, but we're dying on the inside. You guys taught me that stuff. So when I walked into the bar and I saw, you know, all these black people on the dance floor, I said, look, they are miserable. They are miserable. So I went and snatched the plug out the jukebox. And I said, black alcoholics, they got a place for you. It's called the AA Club. You never have to drink again, keep living, and keep coming back. They said, well, why are you down here? I said, oh, I graduated, and step 18 says that I'm supposed to, I don't know, let my people go. I don't know, but. So the bar owner put me out the bar, locked the door behind me, and I just started reading a big book to the passerbyers. You look like an alcoholic. Come here. Listen to this. Then suddenly the thought crossed my mind. You know, you ain't had a drink in a while. One drink ain't gonna hurt you. Listen, I'm an alcoholic. Not twisted about that. But that damn crack had me staring at walls, looking through a peephole. I'm right here and the wall's all the way back there, and I'm like this, like I can see through it. And I say, I think it's my mother. And then everybody go in the closet and shit. You know what I mean? You know what we do. And picking everything off the floor. I've never even understood that. I literally picked I was behind my mom's couch with tweezers, looking for something that I dropped. I ain't dropped nothing behind her couch, but I was looking, then she came in. She's like, Angela, what are you doing behind my couch? I was like, I dropped something. And I'm looking like this. She said, are you okay? Nah, I'm good. Everything's good, Mom. Everything's cool. And I got sober, you guys. And I sat on that step downtown Cincinnati in the sleet and the rain. Homeless. None of my family talks to me. All I got is my buddies downtown. But I got introduced to you. And when I started coming to you, seriously, my life began to change. I quit high school, so I didn't have an education, so I went to college. I want to tell you about my kids real quick. My daughter is 34, my son is 41. And I was telling Jen earlier, I've been sober for 33 years, and they are equally as angry. And I've been sober all this time. Made my amends, cleaned off my side of the street, did everything that everybody in AA told me to do, and my kids hate me. And it was just, I turned 65 on the 12th of October. And I made a decision right then and there that if 33 years don't get it, it's not going to happen. And I had to let them go. And I love my kids, man. I've been trying to love my kids, man, for years. Never enough. It's never enough. And my sponsor was like, you have to walk away. Hardest thing I've ever had to do is to walk away from my kids. But they don't know me. You guys know me. They don't know me. So I've been sober now for 33 years. Like I said, I went to college. Never had my own apartment. Never lived. I always felt like it was easier if I just slept on your couch because then I didn't have to pay rent. I remember my first apartment. It was Christmas time. And I had all these gifts that I had bought for my kids. But I had to put a chair up to the door. My sponsor said, I don't know what you got that up to the door for because the thief is on the inside. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah. You think people steal to the degree that you did. So I should take the chair down? Yeah. It's cool. I remember when I got the key to my first apartment sober, I was just putting people out because I could. Because I always got put out. You know what I mean? So I'd be like, get out. Then they go, I said, no, I'm just kidding. Come on back in. I just want to say that to people sometimes. So I went all the way down, and guess what? AA and God brought me all the way back up. I'm talking about sleeping outside, homeless, living on the banks of the Ohio River in a homeless camp. That's how far this alcoholic went. And you know what? AA was the best thing that ever happened to me because you guys understood where I was coming from. It wasn't about my blackness. It was about my sobriety. So if you're here and you struggle with that, please let me tell you, so many, my mom always taught us that we could never ever trust another race. And I'm trying to tell you that when I got sober, I was sleeping on the bench outside of the clubhouse every night. That's how bad I wanted to stay sober. I just stayed there. And people started watching me stay there. And they began to invite me to their homes. And it wasn't about their color. It was about my alcoholism. And you guys wanted to see me get better. You even told me that. But I'm going to tell you, when AA showed up at both my parents' funerals, and I was telling Jen, I always said that if my parents ever died, I would drink. And I really believed that when I first got sober. But I did both of my parents' eulogies. We paid for both of my parents' funerals because they both had dementia, and we didn't know where any of their stuff was. We paid for both of those funerals out of pocket. But the one thing that I was going to do, regardless of what they died of, I was going to give them a service because they deserved it. They deserved to be buried with dignity, and I wasn't going to have it any other way. But let me tell you, you guys showed up for me. I couldn't believe it. The church was packed, and it was all AA. You showed up for me. You showed me love in so many different ways. In 2005, I spoke at the International Convention of AA. Changed my life First time I spoke, it was 50 people, and the second time I ever spoke was at the International, 70,000 people. And I'll tell you what, man, I was going up those steps, coming from the green room, going up those steps. And they said, Angie P on standby, and you had to go up steps that went up like this. And I'm going up those steps, man, and I'm like, I'm gonna pass out. I came out on the stage and I saw all these people, and I was like, what's up? We are here. And I was berserk. And I was good. And people laughed. You ever heard 70,000 people laugh? But let me tell you something. If you ever heard 70,000 people pray, it sounded like one voice. I had the time of my life, man. And I'll tell you what, all of the good times that I thought were gone have come back even more. If all I had to do was just surrender. Surrender. Get a sponsor. You know, we had dinner with a new girl, and I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. You have touched my heart by showing up tonight. We want to love you back to existence because that's what AA did for me. You loved me like I dressed in guys' clothes, totally confused, but my life had been in prison. That's all I knew. And I remember my sponsor bought me my first dress, and I looked at it, I was like, I ain't wearing that nowhere. And she goes, she was from England, and she goes, not only will you wear it, you'll smile while you're wearing it. I was like, wow. So they got a picture of me at the clubhouse, and I got this dress on, and she bought me this hideous white purse. And in the picture, I'm standing there like this. My AA picture. The best thing that's happened to me, you guys, in my sobriety is my relationship with a power greater than, who I choose to call God. I'm from a family of Baptist ministers, and I did not want that. But you guys told me I could get one of my own understanding. Oh, we good. So it don't have to be the tree that they cut down in front of the clubhouse? Because that was a lot of people's higher power. It was a lot of people's higher power. And I got a good life, you guys. But here's the one thing that I don't want anybody to be twisted about if you're new. Life keeps lifing. Things happen. That's just the way it goes. But when you told me I could get through those things without a drink, I didn't believe you. But that 24 hours turned into 48, turned into a week, month, and now 33 years. What in the world? And I'm 65. I told Jen I cried on my 65th. I was like, I'm old for real. I'm old for real. Not really. Not really. I have a good time. I have a blast. But back home, my grandmother used to hum this song. And I never really understood this song until the night that I spoke at the International. And I'm going to close with this if you don't mind. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. See, I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Thank you, Colorado.